Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-Tool Power Tool Combo Kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
According to Saltus Wealth, 41% of high net worth individuals report having been victims of financial crime. Are you next? High-profile individuals like you need more than off-the-shelf solutions. You need concierge digital security from Reputation Defender. It's not just another app, it's a team of experts using best-in-class tools to protect you and your family, covering virtually every aspect of your digital life. Visit reputationdefender.com/success to learn more. That's reputationdefender.com/success.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning, friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends as we've got Danny Vietti aboard. He does such great work over at CBS Sports. Taking a look at this great game that we all know love of baseball. We're going to be talking about just how historically bad the start to the season has been for the Colorado Rockies. We're going to take a look at some of the good surprises in baseball as well, some of the teams that he thinks might be able to heat up as the season goes along as well, and what to make out of the landscape in general now that we're coming up on Memorial Day, what a lot of people think is a good checkpoint for the baseball season. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So, per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While we did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is an account set up to make sure that bettors are able to access their funds for gambling-related transactions all day, every day, 24/7, 365 on leap years, 366 days of the year. When you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Friday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The top over team in all of baseball is the Chicago Cubs, and boy, oh boy, did they lay it on the Cincinnati Reds late as they were on to a big giant win by a count of 13-6 after they were trailing by a count of 6-2 going into the 7th inning. They put up 11 runs in the final 3 innings as you had some nice gopher balls in this one. Seiya Suzuki, 13th home run of the campaign. Dansby Swanson, 11th home run season. Then Pete Crow Armstrong, home runs number 13 and 14 of the campaign. Hunter Green only goes 4 innings, allows 2 runs, including one of those homers. From there, Scott Barlow, Taylor Rogers combined for 2 scoreless innings, but then Ian Gabo, 3 runs given up in a third of an inning. Tony Santillan gives up 3 runs without recording an out. Brent Suter, 1 2/3 innings, he gives up 3 runs, and Luis May gives up 2 runs in an inning for the Cincinnati Reds. No home runs, but they do go 5 of 13 with men in scoring position. They got to Matthew Boyd, giving up 4 runs in 4 innings, and then Julian Merriweather, 2/3 of an inning, he lost 2 runs, but from there, Chris Flexen, far outside the bullpen scoreless. You had Drew Pomeranz, Ryan Presley, and Brad Keller, all lend a scoreless inning. For the Orioles and Red Sox, they were supposed to play a pair. They only got in 1 game, and the 1 game that we saw was very overwhelming, 19-5. The Red Sox get the win with a 13 spot in the 8th inning. Like, this was a very intriguing game from a totals perspective as Cade Povich, 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Pretty solid. Sir Anthony Dominguez from there, 3 runs allowed in a third of an inning. Gregory Soto, 2/3 of an inning. He gives up 2 runs. And then Cionel Perez, 5 runs given up in an inning. Emmanuel Rivera, position player, was brought on for the 8th inning, and he gave up 8 runs, all of which were earned. And for the Orioles, to their credit, 6 of 15 with men in scoring position as Brian Bayo doesn't even get the win. 2 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. Brandon Bernardino, scoreless inning. Garrett Woodlock, 2 scoreless innings. You did have a run given up in a third of an inning by Justin Wilson. Justin Slayton, the other Justin, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Abraham Toro does give up 2 runs over the course of an inning. Position player, and for the Red Sox going deep in this one, Rob Refsnyder, his 4th home run of the campaign, and pair of home runs for Rafael Devers. 8 home runs, and home runs number 11 and 12 of the campaign. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, they went 26 straight games without scoring more than 4 runs. They've done so in back-to-back games. 6-5, they take down the Milwaukee Brewers. As for the crew, Freddie Peralta, 2 runs, one of which was earned, given up in 4 1/3 innings, including a home run as Oneil Cruz, home runs number 9 and 10 of the campaign. He went deep in the 9th inning off of Ebner Uribe to be able to force extra innings, as Uribe, between the 9th and the 10th inning, he gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. And for Nick Mears, he was able to give you a scoreless inning. Grant Anderson, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Garrett Koenig, he was able to give you an inning, but did give up a run along the way. And William Contreras, he in the 9th inning went deep off of David Bednar, who pooped the Bednar, his 5th home run in the campaign. As for Paul Skeens, allows 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Bullpen made a mess of things from there. Tanner Rainey gives up a pair of runs in a third of an inning. Dennis Santana, a scoreless inning. Caleb Ferguson, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Bednar gives up a home run in a third of an inning before Isaac Madsen, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Ryan Barucki gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning. So Pirates find a way to persevere there. For this team, they find a way to persevere in a low-scoring slog as the San Diego Padres get a 2-1 win over the Atlanta Braves. As for San Diego, Manny Machado and Gavin Sheets both supply a solo home run. 4th home run season for Machado, and Sheets his 9th. As for Machado, goes deep in the 9th inning off of Rossiel Iglesias, who's been rough all season long. Gives up that solo home run in his inning of work. Squanders what was a really good Chris Sale start, giving up a solo home run in 7 innings. Cesar Hernandez, a scoreless inning. And for the Atlanta Braves, their first run of the game came on their first pitch of the game. Ronald Acuna Jr., welcome back. First home run of the campaign off of Nick Pivetta. Pivetta gives up that solo home run in 6 innings of work, but then from there hunkers down for Robert Suarez, a scoreless inning, and Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam. They combine for 2 scoreless innings. The Cleveland Guardians find a way to be able to get it done against the Detroit Tigers, this by a count of 3-1. As for Cleveland, you had a nice start from Slade Sassoni, giving up a run in 6 innings. Hunter Gaddis, 2 scoreless innings. Emmanuel Clase, scoreless inning of his own. And for Detroit, Jackson Jobe, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, was relatively fine. You had 4 outs out of the bullpen from Chase Lee. He gave up a run. Tyler Holton, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Bo Brisky, a scoreless inning, but lone form of offense, Spencer Torkelson, 13th home run of the campaign off of Slade Sassoni. The team goes over with men in scoring position, and for the Texas Rangers, they continue to be by far your best under team in all baseball. About 15 overs, 36 unders, and a push. They fall to the Chicago White Sox by a count of 4-1, and for the Texas Rangers, man, they are really miring out there in mediocrity in terms of offense right now. They have scored a combined 6 runs over the course of their last 4 games, and there's a bunch that they have been stuck on 3 runs or fewer, and I believe now each out of their last 5. So they're not quite at the Pittsburgh Pirates level, but it has not been good for Texas. Yeah, Tyler Mully give up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. Caleb Bouchley, unearned run given up in his inning of work before Jacob Latz gives you a scoreless inning, and Cole Winn a scoreless inning as well. For the White Sox, you had a really nice start from Sean Burke, giving up 1 run in 6 innings. Cam Boucher, Jordan Leisure, Steven Wilson, they're all able to supply a scoreless inning, be able to supply a lot of unders, as well as Kansas City Royals. How about 17 overs, 34 unders, and a push? They do fall to the Minnesota Twins, though, by a count of 3-1. Nice start here from Noah Cameron. Gives up a solo home run in 6 2/3 innings of work as he was taken deep by Carlos Correa, 3rd home run season, and then Ty France in the 9th inning, walk-off home run, 4th home run in the campaign for France. That comes off of Lucas Ursach, who goes a third of an inning, gives up those 2 runs. John Schreiber, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but for the Minnesota Twins, very nice performance here from Pablo Lopez, giving up a run in 5 2/3 innings. From there, the bullpen does their part. Griffin Jacks, Cole Sands, Louis Varland, scoreless inning, and Brock and Roll Stewart, he gives you an out of the bullpen scoreless as well. Colorado Rockies won a baseball game. They are now 9-42 this season, so they are getting on pace to perhaps get 30 wins this year. 3-2. They take down the New York Yankees as Aaron Judge does go deep off of Tanner Gordon, 17th home run season. But for Gordon, gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Jake Bird, Sean Halverson, along Zach Ognos, all in his scoreless inning. And for the New York Yankees, for it being at Coors Field, this bullpen pitched very well. Yuri De Los Santos, Ben Hedrick, they both under scoreless inning. Tim Hill, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Clark Schmidt, he does give up 3 runs over the course of 4 2/3 innings. Did punch out 8, but not a lot doing for that Yankees lineup. Not a lot doing for the Arizona Diamondbacks lineup either, as the St. Louis Cardinals, they find a way to persevere. 4-3 over Arizona. Zach Gallen gets filled up for 4 runs in 5 2/3 innings before Scott McGill, Ryan Thompson, both under scoreless inning. Juan Barillo gives you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and for Arizona, pair of home runs in in this one. Miles Michaelis gives one up to Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 8th home run season, and Gabriel Moreno, his 4th home run season that comes off of Ryan Elsley, as for Mr. Michaelis, gives up just a home run in 6 innings of work. He's right now on a really nice run. Jojo Romero, Kyle Leahy, they both supply scoreless inning, and Ryan Elsley does give up 2 runs over the course of an inning, but still manages to be able to lock down the save. The Seattle Mariners have been one of your better over teams in all of baseball, and they do get the job done against the Houston Astros on Friday by a count of 5-3. Emerson Hancock does give up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run. Going deep for Houston, Isaac Paredes, his 11th home run season, and for Ryan Gusto, gives up a pair of solo home runs over the course of his 4 2/3 innings of work, as Miles Mastroboni, his 1st home run season, then Leody Taveras, his 3rd. Cal Raleigh, big dumper a bit later on off of Bryant Abreu, 7th home run of the season. Abreu gives up that home run, 2 runs a total in 1 1/3 innings. Josh Hader, a scoreless inning. Sean Dubin, 5 outside the bullpen, scoreless. Ben Sosa, a scoreless inning, and Brian King does give up a run in a 1/3 of an inning. Meanwhile, for Seattle, bullpen was on point here. Matt Brash, Carlos Vargas, Andres Munoz, all able to turn scoreless innings. You got a lot of scoreless innings turned as well by the Tampa Bay Rays. They take down the Toronto Blue Jays, this by a count of 3-1, as for the Jays, you had Eric Lauer give up 3 runs in 4 1/3 innings, including a pair of homers. Brandon Lau, 9th home run season. Curtis Mead, his 2nd home run of the season, and 2nd in the last 3 games. You had from there Chad Green, Jose Arena, lended scoreless inning apiece, and 5 outside the bullpen scoreless out of Brandon Fisher, but not a lot doing right now for the Toronto Blue Jays, as Drew Rasmussen puts them on lockdown, 6 scoreless innings. From there, you had Manuel Rodriguez, Edwin Uceta, coupled with Pete Fairbanks, will lend a scoreless inning, and Mason Montgomery walked the bases loaded, 17 pitches, 5 strikes, but somehow, someway, the team is still able to persevere from there, and this team was able to persevere. The Philadelphia Phillies, they go on the road, they get the job done against the Athletics. I did this at the top of the 9th inning when it was 1-0, with the lone run being Trey Turner down for 4th home run season. That comes off of one Jacob Lopez, who he went 7 innings, gave up that home run. Justin Cerner and Mason Miller from there hold down the fort, and for Philadelphia, how about Zach Whelan and Neil Wheeler? 6 2/3 innings scoreless. Orion Kirkering, he gets an out of the bullpen, and then Matt Strom is able to finish things off. Right now, because I have to do this at midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, you've right now got the Mets and the Dodgers in the 10th inning. This has been a wild and crazy game, to say the least, with the LA Dodgers having Clayton Kershaw only given 2 innings. This game had a very long rain delay, so they've had to go bullpen madness in this one. Matt Sauer gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned, including a home run in his 3 innings of work. Going deep for the Metropolitans, Brett Beatty, his 6th home run of the campaign. From there, Ben Casparis has been able to give you 3 scoreless innings. Sander Scott, 3 runs allowed in a 1/3 of an inning. Alex Vesia, scoreless inning. Lou Trevino has been able to give you a few outs out of the bullpen, and for the Mets, they had Griffin Canning, led 2 2/3 innings, gives up 3 runs, but this bullpen has been supreme ever since then. Max Kranick gives you 4 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Jose Bito does give up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, but you had Ryan Stanek give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Jose Castillo, 5 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Genesis Cabrera, 2 scoreless innings. Edwin Diaz, a scoreless inning, and in the 11th, they brought on Reed Garrett. So that's been a lot of good, clean family fun. And what else has been the LA Angels? Their streak is now up to 8 straight games. They take down the Miami Marlins. They get another over, as Sandy Alcantara just continues to be awful. 6 runs, 5 of which were earned in 5 1/3 innings, including a home run going deep for the LA Angels. You had Taylor Ward get his 15th home run season, then off of Lake Bakar, Ori Soler, 7th home run season, as Bakar, 2 1/3 innings. He does give up that home run, and you did have Eric Wagaman go out deep off of Sean Anderson, 4th home run of the season for the Angels. Yusei Kikuchi, I say he had a solid start, 5 2/3 innings, scoreless. From there, Hunter Strickland and out of the bullpen, but Anderson does give up 4 runs while getting 4 outs before Hector Neris and company is able to hold it down. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been a very much underwhelming season thus far, and favorites are starting to dry up a little bit. They're hitting on the money line 58.4%, 440 and 313 on the money line. Meanwhile, the under continues at north of 53%, 387 unders to 339 overs. And if you're looking at what we've got in the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, a north of 62% hit rate to the under, 55 unders, 33 overs, with money line favorites going about 50-50, 45 and 44. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Friday. Now let's take a look at what we're getting league-wide in terms of this great game of baseball with one of our good friends, and Danny Vietti next right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as Danny Vietti. He does such great work over at CBS Sports. Taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Every single time he joins me, he lends such amazing insights. He also does the Rake and Wake podcast, and he does that with Bill Middlebrooks, World Series champion, and also a man that used to play for the Milwaukee Brewers, so we absolutely love that. You're able to follow Danny on Twitter/X at his first name, Danny Vietti, last name spelled Vietti. And Danny, great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, happy Memorial Day weekend to you, Greg, and all the baseball fans out there. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me, Danny. And Danny, I mean, it has been a wild first 2 months of the season. We're starting to be able to reach that Memorial Day landmarker where we really get to know these teams. And just what has been your biggest takeaways from the first 2 months of the season? Because I feel like it's a little bit of a hodgepodge with regards to top teams, but I think what has become very clear is some of the bottom teams.
Yeah, I mean, the National League West definitely sticks out to me. I mean, we were kind of talking a little bit before we started recording here, just about just the difference between those top four teams and the Colorado Rockies at 8-42. Quite the difference. I mean, you have the Diamondbacks 2 games over, Padres 6 games over, the Giants are 8 games over, and then the Dodgers at the top at 31-19. Believe it or not, you have 4 teams that have winning records, and yet the NL West division as a whole actually has a negative point differential. Those top 4 teams all have positive point differentials, but because the Colorado Rockies at the bottom of that division is at a minus 159 point differential, that brings the entire National League West division into the negative area. It's easy for us to laugh at, but I actually do feel for Colorado fans because nobody wants to experience that. I don't think anybody, as much as you might despise another team, I don't know if anybody roots for an 8-42 start for anybody. So the National League West definitely sticks out to me. I think the Cubs are the real deal, and I'm really interested to see how that front office maneuvers these next couple of months, because it's no question what they need to become a championship contender, and that is pitching, especially with the injury and Tommy John surgery to Justin Steele. So if the Cubs can add some pitching and add to their bullpen as well, they're sitting at the top of the division at 30-20, and that offense is as good as anybody in the National League, including the Phillies, including the Mets, including the Dodgers. So a lot of different things we can circle, but those 2 things kind of stick out to me so far.
Yeah, it's been absolutely wild what we've seen there. And I am for the Colorado Rockies. You alluded to it a little bit. Just how bad has this team been, in your opinion? Because I just still am in shock at the fact that this team's run differentials as far down as it is. And it just feels like it's absolutely everything with this organization, because it doesn't even feel like they've got much of a farm system to work with, too.
It really starts with, and we may have talked about this before on a previous episode, but it really starts with the contracts that they handed out. I mean, it's got to start somewhere. And this is something that's been occurring, or at least something that's been developing, I should say, for the last 10 years. I mean, they signed Nolan Arenado, and then 2 years later they trade him. And then they also send the St. Louis Cardinals $5 million per year to have Nolan Arenado. Okay, maybe the contract wasn't what you wanted and you wanted to move on. But wait a minute, 2 years later, or a year and a half after trading Arenado, you signed Chris Bryant to a franchise-leading contract, and that contract has not worked out. That's up there with the Anthony Rendon contract for being up there with one of the worst, if not the worst, across Major League Baseball. They extended some of their young guys, and you actually root for teams and front offices that do that sort of thing, that are willing to invest into a roster. But those extensions haven't worked out. Kyle Freeland, Germán Marquez, Ryan McMahon, all of those players have negative WAR differentials this season. All those guys are one of their highest paid players. So it really starts at the front office. Bud Black had to be the scapegoat. They fired him the first month of the season. But what is a manager supposed to do when those players just flat aren't performing? And the last note I'll throw in there about the Colorado Rockies, not to just keep piling on top of them. You know, we were working with the research team here over at CBS yesterday, and we were looking at the worst 50-game starts in MLB history. And the Colorado Rockies are having the worst start since nearly the Civil War era. Worst starts through 50 games in MLB history. 1876 Cincinnati Red Sox at 6-44. Then the 1895 Louisville Colonels at 7-43. The 1884 Kansas City Unions after that at 7-43. And then it's the 2025 Colorado Rockies at 8-42. I mean, they're in company with 1800s baseball teams. That's how bad this start has been.
I mean, it's just absolutely wild. And for those that don't know about 1800s baseball, there were some organizations that were pretty much set up to pretty much give away their players to the other organizations as well. So, there were pretty much feeder teams out there. So, yeah, it's not great to say the least for the Colorado Rockies. But what is great is getting Danny Vietti board right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And Danny, my goodness, well, we don't have any other team unlike the Rockies. We do have ourselves a lot of intrigue with regards to the American League right now because with the New York Yankees, they've been rock solid on offense. I've been liking what I've been seeing on the Detroit Tigers as well. And those are two teams that just really stand out to me in an American League where it does feel quite open this year.
They can just flat pitch, man. And it's not just at their rotation. Obviously, you have your reigning Cy Young and Tarek Skubal. Jackson Jobu came up, who's a top 10 MLB prospect. They have some electric arms, no doubt. Former top number 1 or number 2 overall pick Casey Mize. But it's not just that starting rotation. It's what their pitching staff and the bullpen has been able to do. And then you bring over Canely to put him at the back of that bullpen, and he's been absolute nails to go along with Vest. And really the bullpen was the aspect of the team, I should say, that got hot last season and propelled them into the postseason. And now they're back and they're pitching just as well as they were last October. A lot of credit goes to that pitching staff. It really does. And we shouldn't look past either the resurgence, the comeback of Javier Baez. I don't think anybody could have predicted that one. The highest paid player on the roster, and now having himself so far a very solid start, especially relative to his first couple of seasons in Detroit. So it's a good ball club. They're lacking some star power, which is why I don't really have them quite as a title contender yet. But I say that while also knowing that baseball, you don't need necessarily a star. You need a team that gets hot at the right time come October. So if this is the team that Detroit wants to roll with, they're going to have to hope that they get hot at the right time. But regardless, it's a very good roster.
Yep, it is a very good roster. And I just feel like they're so much deeper this year with regards to that offense because last year they had the pitching. They still have that great bullpen pitching. Now they've got the offense to boot forward. So that's going to be something to watch out there in the American League for. And then in the National League, I know that we've talked about the NL West so much, but I still am very fascinated by the NL East. I think that the NL Central, I know that we've talked about this the last few years on this podcast. It's pretty much a mid-off, and for the Cubs, they've been able to separate themselves a little bit this year, so feels like it's the Cubs and everyone else, but that NL East, I think, is so intriguing as well, because with the New York Mets, they've gotten off to this nice start to the season, and I think that they could be the real X factor just league-wide, because we know that if the Mets just continue this start to the season, Steve Cohen is going to do everything humanly possible to be able to revamp that team at the trade deadline, and I think that they are very much the team that should have the most, shall we say, intrigue when it comes to the second half of the season.
And it's so funny, too, because they've been able to get off to a start. Now, I'm talking about the New York Mets here, to get off to a 30-20 start. And that's despite Juan Soto, according to Mets fans, having an atrocious season, and his contract needs to be ripped up and he needs to be sent off to China. Those are Mets fans speaking. That's not me. But if you look at Soto's numbers, his discipline rate or his walk rate, his swinging outside the strike zone, they're all on par with his career averages. If you look at his exit velocity, there's a slight dip and you're splitting hairs here. But if you look at his savant numbers, they're pretty on par with his career averages for the most part. 178 at-bats this season, Soto has, to 242 batting average, 8 home runs, 20 run ribbies, and an 800 OPS. Is it MVP level? No. And this is the problem for Soto, really, is that when you sign a $765 million contract, the highest in North American sports history, there's expectations that are completely impossible to meet. The standard is so high that no matter what you do, you're going to fall short. There's not a soul in the universe that's worth that amount of money. Perhaps the only player in the universe that's considerable for $700+ million is Shohei Ohtani, and that's because of his marketability. You have the Mets, who are just below first place. They're 10 games over 500. They're in a very good position. And like you just said, Steve Cohen's going to be willing to spend money as long as they're in contention. And Soto has an 800 OPS, which is above league average, 8 home. I just think that people need to, Mets fans in particular, really just need to take a step backwards and understand that this is a 162 game season. And yes, Juan Soto has had stretches before across his career where he's gone 150, 200 at bats, where he's only had an 800 OPS. And so people love to overreact. I just think that this whole Juan Soto story and how Mets fans are turning against him, and there's all this drama between him and the Yankees, I just think it's being completely blown out of proportion, especially when you consider where the Mets are in the standings.
Yeah, it's been wild what we've been seeing in terms of the overreaction in terms of Juan Soto, because he's still moving the line. He has been able to get a lot of multi-home run games against the Arizona Diamondbacks, not so much other teams, but you know what? It's going to be coming sooner rather than later. And now that we're at the 2-month mark of the season, Danny, we've been able to get a little bit more of an idea on some of these teams. Who's a team or two that you're watching for that you think over the next few weeks they might be able to ascend/decline after what has been either a really good start to the season for them that you think is unsustainable, or a rough start to the season that you think is going to start to turn around?
I feel bad for Minnesota because that was one team I was really looking forward to watch over the next coming months, just because they had a healthy Byron Buxton. They had Pablo Lopez coming back from the injured list, and they had one, I think it was like 11 of 12 or something like that. And then unfortunately it was Correa and Buxton, their two stars, who collided on a pop fly. And both of those guys are now on the injured list. And this is all while Royce Lewis just came back from the injured list as well. So that was one team I had circled because I was excited to see what that team was going to be capable of doing when they were healthy. But they're at 27-22. They're still in good position. They've won 8 of their last 10. I just want to see what the Twins are capable of doing when they're at full strength. Houston's playing better baseball in that division. The American League West seems gettable. I would love for Seattle to kick things into next year and run away with that division, but they haven't done so far. And I think that's a lot of because the front office is not willing to kick things into next gear and actually spend some dough. Maybe that's another conversation for another day. But those two storylines, one more to add is just the Texas Rangers at 25-26. That's pretty disappointing. You know, coming into the season, I had more expectations and probably more hope than a lot of people had for this ball club because I thought they were stacked top to bottom. And that offense has struggled, including Simeon. They haven't really been healthy. They sent Jake Berger down, who they acquired from Miami. The pitching staff has been pretty solid for the most part, but it's really been that offense that's been so disappointing. So many storylines to look for, but Rangers, Astros, Twins in the American League, those are 3 teams that I have circled moving forward.
Yep, I think that all 3 of those teams are going to be very fascinating, and it's going to be a great stretch run here in baseball as we're finally coming up on Memorial Day. Danny, you're doing an amazing job being able to gauge it all, and I want you to let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow all of your work on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, so much baseball content to get after. We're kind of picking and choosing where to go, but you can follow all that at CBS Sports on the social channels, CBS Sports on YouTube. Wherever you get your social media, you know where to find us in CBSSports.com.
Danny does an amazing job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, and every single time he joins me, lends amazing insights. So big thanks to Danny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VC Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VC Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to be joined by Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Danny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board. It is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They hit the road. They're facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals as Matthew Liberatore is on the bump for the Cardinals, and you've got Merrill Kelly going for the Arizona Diamondbacks. It is a total over and under both at -1 110. And with the Cardinals, very small favorites here. You're going to be finding them between minus 110 to a minus 112. Meanwhile, even money to minus 108. Then I'm on the Diamondbacks, and I set the Cardinals at a minus 132. I like them on the money line. Matthew Liberatore has been pretty incredible this season. 2.92 ERA, but a 2.29 fielding independent, 0.3 home runs, 1.4 walks allowed per 9 innings. He has gone out there and has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts, so he's been a rock of consistency there. Meanwhile, for Merrill Kelly, 3.26 ERA overall, but he's got some big home and road splits. A 4.28 road ERA, a home ERA that's more around about a 2.35, and for Merrill Kelly, it's been a case where this has been really him for the entirety of his career. For his entire career, he's got an ERA that's more than 1.3 points higher when he's away from home rather than at home, and it's all coming down a little bit to the deep ball as well, because for Merrill Kelly, when he goes away from home, and this is the career numbers, not just this season, but for his career, when he goes on the road, he does give up quite a few home runs, as he has been giving up throughout his career right around about 1.4-ish home runs per 9 innings, while at home that goes down to more like 1 home run per 9 innings. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, good news for them is that this lineup is very rock solid. Have a pair of guys in Corbin Carroll and Eugenio Suarez who have been able to give you 14 plus home runs this season. Got a lot of guys that are moving the line, like Geraldo Perdomo has been able to give you north of a 375 on base. Has been a little bit up and down in terms of a few of these guys in terms of being able to get on base, like Suarez certainly has not been able to for the world's greatest average, and you've had Lourdes Gurriel be very inconsistent at the plate thus far this season, but for the most part, these guys have been able to come through for you, and you've been able to get quite a bit out of Josh Naylor, who's been able to give you about a 350 on base, Pavin Smith as well. And then for the St. Louis Cardinals, Brendan Donovan has been well above a 300. Ivan Herrera coming back is big. First 60 at-bats of the season, 5 home runs, hitting above a 400. I think he's going to tail off of that pace a little bit, but Alec Burleson is picking it up, moving the line for the Cardinals. Not necessarily big home run hitters. Right now, Lars Nootbaar has been your top guy going into Friday with 7 home runs, but Cardinals have really been able to get their act together thanks to the bullpen being able to pick it up. Towards the beginning part of the season, you had a lot of these guys failing in the middle/back half of games, and you've got Jojo Romero, who's been able to do a better job recently. John King has been a king for the team, and Kyle Leahy is right now giving you a sub-3 ERA. Ryan Elsley, I believe, is one of the better closers in all baseball, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they've been a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen area because they're dealing with so many guys like AJ Puck being on the injured list, been able to get good production out of Shelby Miller, Jalen Beeks, sub-3 ERA out of both of them, and you're getting Kendall Graveman back as well, but Juan Murillo, Kevin Ginkel, guys like this, north of a 6 ERA. So I do think that for the St. Louis Cardinals, they're going to do a nice job, be able to get to Merrill Kelly here, as he does have some big home and road splits, so I did set my total at an 8.3. I do like the over, and I do like the St. Louis Cardinals on the money line. Set them at a minus 132. 903, 904 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road facing up against the Pittsburgh Pirates, as Quinn Priester is on the bum for the Brew Crew, and Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos. The Pirates do find themselves anywhere between minus 104 to minus 112, anywhere between minus 108 to minus 105 is that number on the Brewers. It is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. Seeing a straight 8.5 out there, under is minus 120, and the over is even, and I did set my total at 8.2. Personally, I'd rather take the 8.5 under rather than the 8 over. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, entering into the day on Friday, they had scored 4 runs or fewer in 26 out of their last 27 games. It has not been going too well for them. Oneil Cruz has been able to give you a little bit of power, but man, it just has not been great, as he's been supplying about a 357 on base. Brian Reynolds has been able to give you 6+ home runs, but he, Alexander Canario, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, there are so many guys on this team that are running below 280 on base. They're giving you less than a 215 in terms of that batting average, and with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he's moving the line, he's hitting about a 280 or so, but has been a very rough lineup to say the least. Meanwhile, for the Milwaukee Brewers, the middle of the infield has really not been able to do a great job of hitting. You've had guys like a Caleb Duran, Vinny Capra, Joey Ortiz, really not give you a lot at the plate, but you've got William Contreras starting to pick it up with a 370 on base. You've got Christian Yelich, who's got 9 home runs, but he's been hitting below the Bedoza line of 200. Sal Frelick, Bryce Rang, they're doing a nice job supplying a 350 plus on base, and both of these bullpens have been a little bit suspect. For the Brewers, Yopai himself as Piguero just have not been the same guys that they were 8 seasons ago. Now, you've got Abner Uribe, who's been really good as sort of a super utility guy, but for the Brewers, other than that, it's been a little bit hit or miss. Trevor McGill's been able to give you some good innings as well, and I like Nick Mears as well, but he's been acting up a little bit more recently. And then for the Pittsburgh Pirates, David Bednar has been pooping the Bednar over the last year plus. You've got Ryan Baruch, who's actually been pretty rock solid in terms of his production. They laying Colin Holderman on the injured list. He was doing nothing whatsoever for this team. Dennis Santana has been solid, but overall, it's been very hit or miss, very suspect with this team. And for Quinn Pricer, he has been giving out about 5 walks per 9 innings. He's been able to keep the ball in the yard. He's really not giving up a lot of hard contact, but he's just putting on too many guys cheaply, and he's not like he's some sort of a strikeout artist or something like that. For Quinn Pricer, he's been getting fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, so it's a very interesting ordeal. I did set the Pirates at a minus 109 because with Mitch Keller, he's always a much better pitcher when he is at home rather than on the road. Throughout his career, he's been posting up an ERA that's more than a full point better when he's been at home rather than on the road. 3.88 ERA, 3.41 fielding dependent. Has done a good job keeping the ball in the yard. 0.6 home runs per 9 innings allowed, but that said, he's only getting 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. That swing and miss stuff is way down as well. So with the Brewers, I did set them here at a plus 109. So here at the minus 104 or so that I'm seeing on the Pirates, going to be landing there. And with regards to this total, I'm in on the under of 8.5. 905, 906 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants hit the road. They're facing off against the Washington Nationals as Jake Irvin goes for the Nats and Kyle Harrison is on the bump for the Giants. Currently, the only place that we're seeing an opener is over at FanDuel, and right now the Giants are at a minus 136 plus 116 on Washington. 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110. If we could get down to a minus 133 on the Giants, which I think we should, I'd be willing to lay that money line for Kyle Harrison. Good to be his first start of the year. Made a few relief appearances, 5 1/3 innings in total over the course of 4 appearances. So got to think that length is going to be a little bit shaky with him, but he's backed up by a San Francisco Giants bullpen that has been very rock solid thus far this season, going into the day on Friday, number 1 in terms of ERA, and they're able to mix and match with a lot of these bullpen pieces. I'm not thinking that Hayden Birdsong is going to be available in that bullpen because he made a start a few days ago, but he's been one of those guys that's been solid. Randy Rodriguez has been able to do a nice job, give you some good innings. Spencer Bivens is able to give some long relief, and he's like one of the few guys in that bullpen with a north of a 3.15 ERA, so all these guys have been able to do a nice job in terms of just being able to find it. And with this team, you've got Wilmer Flores, who's been able to give you 10 home runs thus far this season. He's been rock solid at the dish. Now, you've got a few guys that they do need to pick it up a little bit. Willie Adames, the fact that he's only hitting about a 220 and it's not giving you a lot of power has been an issue. Matt Chapman does a nice job with a 350 on base. He's been able to give you quite a few bombs. Not really hitting for a lot of average, but Eloy Ramos, 9 home runs. He's hitting about a 290, and now they get back Tyler Fitzgerald as well. He's been able to do a nice job in terms of moving the line this year. Hasn't necessarily had the power surge that he had in the summer last season. And for the Washington Nationals, you've got James Wood, who's been able to give you good wood. He's been able to supply 12 home runs, north of 370 on base. And then you've been able to have CJ Abrams go out, hit for above a 300. He's been able to give you 8 home runs as well. You need it because Josh Bell has been rough. He's been hitting below the Mendoza line 200. Haven't necessarily gotten a lot out of Dylan Cruz as well. Jose Ten has been okay in terms of being able to get on base, but Luis Garcia has been a little bit shaky as well, but for the Nationals, north of a 6 bullpen ERA. They've been a little bit better here in the last few weeks as you've been able to mix and match with the likes of Kyle Finnegan, Jackson Rutledge, Cole Henry, who've been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but these guys like Jorge Lopez and company, they have been really, really bad. Lucas Sims and company, so yeah, that's not necessarily a place where you want to be. The Giants should have a massive pitching advantage, even with Kyle Harrison not necessarily being stretched out here, so I'm willing to lay up to a minus 133 on that money line, and somebody told 9.1. I do think that they get to a guy in Jake Irvin who, thus far this season, he's got a fielding independent that's about a point higher than his ERA. For Irvin, he's been able to supply you with about a 3.88 ERA, but he has given up quite a bit in terms of the hard contact. He's not necessarily been a strikeout artist throughout his career as well. For Jake Irvin, only about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, while giving up a home run and a half per 9 innings. So, like the over, and I do like the Giants up to a minus 133. 907, 908 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs hit the road. They're facing off against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are on to Cincinnati. He's on to Andrew Abbott, getting the start for them, and Mr. Colin Ray says hit Ray to another start with the Cubs. They are anywhere between minus 120 to minus 125 favorites, between plus 105 to plus 113. That number on Cincinnati, 9 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. I'm going to be willing to take Cincinnati here on the money line. I actually made them the very slim minus 104 favorite. With Andrew Abbott, he has been rock solid thus far this season, posting up a 180 ERA. Fielding in a bit higher than that, but he's still getting 11.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. He does have to go up against a Chicago Cubs team that's been number 1 in all baseball in terms of run creation, and they showed that once again yesterday. As yesterday, it looked like the Cincinnati Reds had full control with Hunter Green, and then the bullpen, which has been a top 10 bullpen in all of baseball, really did start to act up. You still have quite a few rock solid pieces out there. Tony Santillan, Brent Suter, Taylor Rogers, all being able to give you a sub 3 ERA. These guys have been pretty rock solid. Graham Ashcraft has not been a load of Ashcraft. He's done a nice job. I'll be able to play this team with a sub-3 ERA as a little bit more of a long guy as well, but for the Cubs, my goodness. With Peker Armstrong, when he's been able to play this team with 14 home runs, now this far this season has been rock solid. C.A. Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, up to 11 plus bombs as well, so these guys have done their part along Kyle Tucker, who has been one of the biggest offseason acquisitions in all baseball. Being able to supply a 380 on base has been big, and not for nothing, Carson Kelly, he's been able to continue to give you north of 4 on base. He's giving you a home run every 13 or so at bats. So, all these guys have done a nice job in tandem with one another. But for the Cincinnati Reds, you do have a pair of guys in TJ Friedl, coupled with also Gavin Lux, who've been able to give you at least 360 on base. Ida Cruz obviously has been your main power guy. He's been able to supply 8 home runs, about a 315 on base, but been able to get a little bit more out of Jose Trevino as well. He's right now hitting for about a 290. And with the Cubs, this bullpen is very much a concern for them, as you've had quite a few guys they've had to mix and match with. The injuries have been able to add up for this bullpen, as you got Julian Merriweather right now posting up north of 5 ERA. Porter Raj has not been the same guy that he was a season ago, but when you take a look at this bullpen, you've been able to get some relatively good production. Drew Pomeranz, along with Daniel Palencia, sub-3 ERAs out of both of these guys. So very much an interesting circumstance. I do think that for Colin Ray, he's going to start to regress a little bit. He's had himself a nice season. Right now, he is supplying a sub-3 ERA, but that fielding dependence is a little bit higher than that. For Ray, he's only been able to get about 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and it just felt like he's been very fortunate getting out of the situations that he has. For Ray, he has been in some of his best form coming into this, as he has given up 200 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. But again, I can't help but think that he's going to start to show what he did with the Milwaukee Brewers last year, where he was giving up closer to about 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. Has been fortunate to induce a soft contact. Part of that has been having quite a few starts out there at Wrigley Field where the wind has been blowing in, so he's been very much a beneficiary for that. If you take a look at what he's been able to do when he's been at home, he's given up only about 3 home runs in 28 and 2/3 innings. So I do think that this is going to be a case where we're going to start to see Colin Ray give up a little bit more in general, and I do think that for this Reds team, they get to Ray, and I do think that the bullpen going to be a whole heck of a lot better than it was yesterday. So here at the 9, I like the over, and I do like the Reds on the money line. 909, 910 on the betting board. The San Diego Padres set their other facing off against the Atlanta Braves. Grant Holmes is on the bump for the Bravos, and it is Michael King open to be the king for the San Diego Padres. Padres do find themselves as anywhere between minus 120 to minus 125 favorites, between plus 105 to plus 115. That number on Atlanta. 8.5 is the total. The under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105 for San Diego. I did set them at a minus 124, so I'm going to be willing to lay this number. Wouldn't want to go much further than a minus 122, but for Michael King, I've been very impressed by him. He's given you about 10 strikeouts to 3 walks per 9 innings. He's been able to hang that sub 315 ERA as well. Has been throughout his time with the San Diego Padres very good on the road as well. For King, he's only giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings, so fielding depends more around about a 320, but I've been impressed by him overall. 300 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 5 starts. Meanwhile, for Grant Holmes, I believe that he's a better pitcher than what we've seen in terms of the raw numbers this far this season. Holmes is right now hanging up a 4 ERA, fielding dependent. It's more around about a 521, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the issue has been 1.7 home runs and 4.5 walks per 9, but seems to be rounding back into form. 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in 3 out of his last 4 starts, but has given up at least 1 home run in every one of those starts as well, as he has given up a combined 8 home runs past 5 starts for the San Diego Padres. Not necessarily too much of a power team outside of Fernando Tatis Jr., though Tatis Jr., he's been able to give you a double-figure amount of homers. I've been very impressed by what he's been able to bring to the table, but you have a lot of other guys that, while they're hitting for average, they're not hitting for power. Manny Machado got home run number 4 yesterday for this unit. He's doing a nice job with a 375 on base, hitting above a 300, but you expect a little bit more power out of Machado. Now, Gavin Sheets, he's up to 9 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 330 or so on base, but Xander Bogaerts, ever since coming on over to San Diego, has not given you any sort of power. Luis Rise, you just don't expect a lot of power there, but he's been able to 300. You need the guys at the bottom of the lineup to be able to give you a little bit more. Jason Hayward, Brandon Luckridge, guys like this. But for the Atlanta Braves, they've got their own dead bats to be concerned about, as you got a pair of guys in Ozzie Albies along with Michael Harris, both hitting right around 225, not necessarily a ton of power out of them. Getting back around Acuna Jr. is just absolutely massive for the Atlanta Braves. First at bat, he is able to crank out a home run, lone run of the game that the Atlanta Braves were able to hang on the board yesterday. Austin Riley, he's been able to give you 8+ home runs, give you about a 280 average, coach Matt Olson has done a nice job being able to supply this team with 10 plus home runs up to about a 350 on base. And for the Atlanta Braves, this is about a league average bullpen. I like what I've seen out of Desbel Hernandez. He's been able to supply the team with a sub 3 ERA. You've had some good production out of Dylan Lee. He's been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but it's been a case where Angel de los Santos has been very inconsistent. Rossiel Iglesias, I believe that he's got great stuff, but just has not shown that thus far this season. And on the flip side for the San Diego Padres, this is a top 6 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. They did have a little bit of a rough go of it when they went to Coors about a week or so ago, but Adrian Morejon is a very good long guy that's able to give you a sub 340 ERA. You've also been able to have the likes of Yuki Matsui, Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam be able to give you a sub 3 ERA, and Robert Suarez has done a nice job being able to close out games with the Padres. I do think that they're going to get a good start here out of Michael King, so I do think that they, with the King, get the job done. I set them at a minus 124, so like that money line. I like the under. I set my total at an 8.3. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. It is the LA Dodgers, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the New York Metropolitans. As David Peterson, great name, goes for the Mets, and Tony Gonsolin is on the bump for the Dodgers. 8.5 is the total. Over and under both at minus 110. With the Mets, they are anywhere between minus 110 to minus 115 favorites. Anywhere between even money to plus 102 is that number on the Dodgers, and I'm going to be willing to roll with the Mets on the money line. I did set them at a minus 127. Tony Gonsolin has actually seen a massive rise in his strikeout numbers. He's been able to give you north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. That said, he's also been giving up north of 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. His walk rate ever since he has come off the injured list, that's been pretty high as well, as allowing a little bit north of 4 walks per 9 innings, 405 ERA, but a 469 fielding dependent. Meanwhile, for David Peterson, getting a 286 ERA with 0.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings. The swing and miss stuff has not quite returned to the pre-2023 levels, where he from 2021 to 2023 was getting north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's back to right around about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but has been very crafty in the way that he's been able to reduce on the walks as well, and he's backed up by a bullpen that does rank in the top 5 of the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've had Jose Buto be a relatively good long guy. He, Uskar Brisbane have been able to give you both a sub 320 ERA. Edwin Diaz appears to be returning to prominence as well, and though the New York Mets do have quite a few injuries along the lineup with Mark Vientos, Brandon Nimmo, a little bit banged up, you still have a rock-solid team with Francisco Alvarez being able to come back along with Luis Torrens. These two guys at the catcher spot have been able to give you some pretty nice production, with Alvarez hitting about a 250. Additionally, you've got Francisco Lindor, who continues to give you 10-plus home runs. He's been able to hit north of 280. Jeff McNeil has been, well, having himself a relatively up-and-down season for the team, but they're able to platoon a little bit more in that infield. And then additionally, you've got Juan Soto. I feel like the hate has gone a little bit too far on him. I agree with Danny Vietti. He hasn't necessarily been living up to that massive of a contract, but he's still been able to give you some good production. Then you've got Pete Alonso, who's been able to supply that double-figure amount of homers. He's done a nice job in terms of his on-base percentage being right around about at 400 or so. And then on the flip side, for the LA Dodgers, it's been Shohei Ohtani really supplying the boom, being able to supply 16 home runs, nearly a 400 base is supreme. But Will Smith, how about him getting jiggy with it? He and Freddie Freeman, both north of a 420 on base. You've got a guy in Freeman who's been able to give you a home run every about 12 to 13 at-bats, and then Mookie Betts, a 350 on base. Max Muncy has been rough for the team, so has Michael Conforto, but getting back Tommy Edman, that helps out as well. He's been able to give the team 8 home runs, despite the fact that he spent some time on the injured list. But the concern for this Dodgers team is, for one, obviously Tony Gonsolin, but two, this bullpen as well, as they've had so many injuries. Kirby Yates now lands on the injured list. They've without Michael Kopech, Brusardo Graterol, guys like this, but Tanner Scott has been able to do a nice job being able to give you a sub-3 ERA. The likes of a Ben Casparis, Jack Dreyer, these guys have been able to step up in the bullpen a little bit more, but I do think that they're going to give up some runs to the New York Mets. I do think that Peterson going to have a little bit of a tough time with a fearsome Dodgers lineup, so I did set my tilt at 8.7. I like the over, and for the Mets, I'm going to be willing to lay up to minus 126 on that money line. 913, 914 on the betting board. It is the Kansas City Royals, and they do hit the road to face off against the Minnesota Twins. Zebby Matthews is on the bump for the Twins, and Michael Wacha, and if he has a bad start, he turns into the dying Pac-Man voice. Michael, waka, 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 waka. He goes for the Royals. 8 is the total. Over and under, both at minus 110. For Minnesota, you're going to be getting them anywhere between minus 120 to a minus 125. Between plus 105 to plus 110 is that number on Kansas City. And for Zebby Matthews, he did post up a ERA that was north of 6 at the big league level last season, but I believe that he's learned from it. I did set the money line here at a minus 112. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Minnesota Twins, you're going to be able to find that right around about a plus plus 170, plus 175, and I would need at least plus 112 to be able to take a shot on the Royals. I don't think I'm going to quite be able to get there, so I'm going to be looking a little bit more at that Minnesota Twins run line with Michael Wacha. He's been very consistent for this unit in Kansas City. He's been able to give you about 7 to 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and the biggest thing is he's been able to keep the ball in the yard this season, whether he be at home or on the road. He's given up just a half home run per 9 innings, 2.5 walks per 9, 286 ERA, 310 fielding dependent. And then for Zebby Matthews, rough first start of the season against the Milwaukee Brewers, gives up 4 runs in 3 innings, but if you look at what he was doing at the minor league level, I'm a believer in it. He was posting up a sub-2 ERA for AAA St. Paul, 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and did a really good job of being able to clean up the deep ball when he was at the big league level for his 9 starts last season. He was giving up 2.6 home runs per 9 innings at the AAA level. I believe that he only gave up 2 home runs in 32 innings, might have been as low as 1 home run in that span, so he's been able to do a nice job of being able to clean things up there. And for the Minnesota Twins, they do back him up with one of the best bullpens that you're going to find in all of baseball. Really, both of these teams have been rock solid with regards to their bullpen. The Twins a little bit better, but still, you've got on the flip side for the Kansas City Royals a pair of guys in Carlos Estevez along with Lucas Sarsic, who've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Steven Cruz has been good with that regard. And for the Minnesota Twins, how about Danny Kalum? 19 appearances, has yet to give up a run this far this season. Yohan Duran, he's been one of the best closers in all of baseball. Justin Topa has been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Cole Sands has been able to come in there and hold down the fort. So even if you don't get a great start out of Zebby Matthews, you've got a lot of guys that are able to help out from there. And the Twins are just flat out better with regards to their lineup. You've got Byron Buxton giving you 10 home runs, hitting a 260. You've had Harrison Bader do a nice job move the line, give you about a 366 on base. Trevor Larnach, he's been able to give you a 320 on base, and you've got Carlos Correa still struggling a little bit, but it's getting a bit better for him. You've been able to mix and match towards the bottom of the lineup. Getting back Brooks Lee after he was injured towards the start of the season has helped this team out a little bit. And for the Kansas City Royals, you've got Vinny Pasquantino, who's been starting to give you a bit more power with 8 home runs, but this is a Royals team that's been quite powerless. They're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of home runs. Brad Bat, Bobby Witt Jr., Miguel Garcia, both hitting above a 300, have been big for this team. You've got Jonathan India, Michael Massey, a pair of guys that are hitting about a 215 to a 230 or so. You could use a little bit more power out of the likes of Kyle Isbell, Drew Waters, but at the very least, these guys are finding a way on base, unlike the likes of Kevon Biggio and company. But for the Kansas City Royals, I do think that they're going to do a nice job with Michael Wacha being able to hold it down, but I do think that in the end, they're just not able to generate a lot of offense, even against a guy like Zebby Matthews. So I did sell my total at 8.2. Here at the 8, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over, and I do like the Twins at a plus 175 on that run line. 9:15, 9:16 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners are on the road. They're facing off against the Houston Astros. Framber Valdez is on the bump for Houston. Brian Wu says woohoo to another start for Seattle. 7.5 is the total. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 120. Overs between even a minus 110. And between minus 110 to a minus 120 is that number on Houston. And between even money and plus 106 is that number on Seattle. And with the Houston Astros, I did set them on the money line at a minus 111. So right now, seeing that plus 110 or so, if we could get up like another penny or so, I'd be willing to take a shot on the Seattle Mariners. As for the Mariners, this has been a lineup that has been so good on the road in terms of run creation with about 5.5 runs per game. Big dumper Cal Raleigh has been tremendous with supplying 16 home runs this season, and you've had Dylan Moore be a nice revelation for the team. He's been able to supply you with 8 home runs. Framber Valdez for the Houston Astros has been a little bit inconsistent thus far this season. You always know that he's going to be able to give you some good length. You know that he's going to be able to give you some nice swing and miss, as he's been able to get about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Kept the ball in the yard, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. He doesn't allow a lot of cheapies. That's why he's got a 3.57 ERA, but a 3.28 fielding independent, but has to go up against a Seattle Mariners team that's seen Ore Polanco get out hitting above a 300. He's been able to give the team 10 home runs. Bottom lineup can be a little bit suspect, and Julio Rodriguez has not necessarily been able to hit peak form quite yet, but this is actually a better start than he's gotten off to in past years, and now it feels like he's starting around into form with those 9 home runs. J.P. Crawford has been able to give you a 386 on base, and for Brian Wu, he has been becoming one of the more dominant starters out there in the American League. He's posting up a 265 ERA. Fielding independent is very close to that, as he's getting right around about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but it's been impressive what he's done in terms of his command. He's giving up a little bit over a walk per 9 innings. He's giving up just 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Comes in having allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and this has been a Houston Astros lineup that has had their struggles throughout the season. You did have Jose Altuve in game number 1 of the series be able to provide a 2 home run game, but he has not been himself this season. He's only hitting about a 250. You expect more there. Isaac Paredes has been able to go yard 11 times. He's been able to spy a north of 370 on base. Jeremy Pena continues to hit north of 290. Jake Myers, he's hitting above a 300 as well. And you've seen Mauricio Dubon and Victor Carantini start to move the line a little bit more. Not power hitters, but you know what? They're giving you about a 270 average. And for the Houston Astros, this bullpen has the Brian Brian King, Brian Abreu, both being able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Astros have been a top 6 team with regards to that bullpen ERA. Stephen Okert has been able to give you good innings. Josh Hader has been a nice closer, but for the Seattle Mariners, Andres Munoz has been so dominant. They used him for just 7 pitches yesterday, has yet to give up an earned run this season. Matt Brashton's coming off the injured list, has not given up a run, and this is a bullpen that has really improved ever since Brash has been able to come back. They were about league average before he came back, but right now you've got Carlos Vargas giving you sub 3.3 ERA. Gabe Spire has been able to give you some nice innings as well. So for the Seattle Mariners, as long as we can get north of plus 110, and right now we're seeing about a plus 110, I think that we should be able to get there when it's all said and done. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that money line, and I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game, though I think that has maybe gone down a little bit too far with the way that the Mariners have been able to pound the ball when they've been away from home. Set my total at 7.9. I do like the over. 917, 918 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers are on the road facing off against the Chicago White Sox. The Cannon, Jonathan Cannon, goes for the Southsiders, and Jack Leiter is on the bump for the Texas Rangers. The total on this game, it is 8. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is between even and minus 110. And for Texas, they're between minus 170 to minus 180 favors. Plus 150 to plus 160 is that number on the Chicago White Sox. And if you're looking to lay a run off with the Texas Rangers, you're going to be finding that between a minus 105 to a minus 110. And I would need to be getting even money or better with regards to that Rangers run line, and if we can get north of plus 160, we just need about a penny or two of line movement. I'll be in on the Chicago White Sox, need at least a plus 161 there, as I just don't have a lot of faith in Jack Leiter. Along with that, the Texas Rangers lineup, as for the Rangers, they continue to be a bottom 5 team in all of baseball in terms of their run scoring. You've got Wyatt Langford, who's been able to give this team 8 or 9 home runs thus far this season, and he's giving you about a 340 on base, but without Corey Seager and the way that he's been banged up all season long, they just have not really had that leader out there. You do have the Josh Young along with Josh Smith, who've both been able to hit north of 275, but Marcus Semien sitting below the middle line of 200. Jake Berger, it's just been a rough season in general for him with about a 260 on base. It's looked a little bit better here in the last week, but Jock Peterson is sitting below the middle line of 200. Kevin Pillar and his limited amount of at-bats has not been great for the team, and Adolis Garcia hitting just above a 200 with 6 home runs. He has really fallen off ever since that World Series run, and on the flip side for the Chicago White Sox, this has been a bottom 6 team in the big leagues in terms of their run creation. You just haven't been able to get a lot of power with Andrew Benintendi being out of the lineup. Miguel Vargas is up to 6 home runs this season, but Andrew Vaughn along with Luis Robert, both hitting between a 180 to a 190. That has been very much less than savory. Both of these guys are rough with regards to on base, especially Andrew Vaughn at 218 on base. That's just not cutting it. Michael A. Taylor, he's been hitting below the middle line of 200. Joshua Palacios, not necessarily giving you a lot. Edgar Quero has been able to about a 250 or so, but I do think that for the Chicago White Sox, they're going to be able to get a good start out of Jonathan Cannon. For Cannon, he's posting up an ERA that is a little bit below 4. Fielding independent is a tad bit higher because he has been giving up the walks. He's been giving up about 3 walks per 9 innings, but he's keeping the ball in the yard, only giving up about a home run per 9, and you've got a bullpen for the Chicago White Sox team that's starting to be a little bit better, with Mike Vasile becoming a really nice long guy, giving you a sub-3 ERA. Steven Wilson has been able to give you a few good innings as well. Now you've got the likes of a Cam Bouger, Brandon Eisert, who are giving you north of a 5 ERA. Penn Murphy has been very less than tremendous for the team, but it's not like the Texas Rangers necessarily dominate with that bullpen. Yes, the Texas Rangers have a little bit of a better bullpen, as you've been able to have a few guys be able to step up, like Robert Garcia, who's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA thus far this season, but you still have some of these guys out there in like the long relief that have been, shall we say, a little bit shaky thus far this season. Sean Armstrong is posting up north of 4.5 ERA. Jacob Latz has been up and down all season long. Chris Martin being able to give you a sub-2 ERA that's been solid, along Toby Milner being able to do a nice job of holding it down, but I just do have my question marks with Jack Leiter. First 2 or 3 starts of the season were really good for him. He lands on the injured list, and then from there he goes straight down the toilet bowl, as right now for a good friend of Mr. Leiter, he's been supplying the team with a ERA over a 4.25, but his swing and miss stuff has been way down since coming off the injured list. Less than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, keeping the ball in the yard, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, so it does make this a very interesting circumstance, and one where I did set my total at an 8.3. I do think that this is going to be a bunch that is going to be able to get Jack Leiter a little bit more, and if we can get a north of plus 160 number, going to be willing to take the White Sox on the money line to go along with that 8 over. 919, 920 is going to be in conjecture with 931, 932 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be on the road facing off against the Boston Red Sox. We know that one of these matchups is going to be Zach Eflin going up against Hunter Dobbins, and in terms of start number 2, we are a little bit TBD there, so we're going to be flying a little bit blind. I'm going to be giving you guys the first one here, and then we'll go from there, but in terms of the start number 1, with it being Hunter Dobbins and Zach Eflin, I did set the Red Sox at a minus 128 on the money line, and right now in terms of some of those initial openers, I'm starting to see right around about even money or so, and that total being right around about a 9, and if I can get a 9, I'd be willing to take a shot on the over 9.5 or higher. We'll be starting to take a look at the under. For Dobbins, he's been able to do a nice job since getting the call up to the big league level. He's been able to supply the team with a sub-3.75 ERA. For Dobbins, not necessarily going to completely light you up with his swing and miss stuff. Never really did at the minor league level, as right now he's supplying the team with about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the command has been good. 1.4 walks, 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and has given up 0 or 1 runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, so I've been liking what I've been seeing there. And for Zach Eflin, coming off of being just Eflin awful in his last start, he was completely lit ablaze against the Washington Nationals. Spent a lot of time on the injured list. This is just start number 6 of the season from 5.08 ERA, 5.16 fielding, dependent, with getting no swing and miss whatsoever. 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Never really walks, guys. Past few seasons, less than 2 walks per 9 innings, but he's always finding himself in the zone, and now you have to go up against the Boston Red Sox lineup that does have quite a bit of firepower. Rafael Devers was able to hit multiple homers yesterday, and for the Red Sox, just hilariously, they were able to get 19 runs up on the board. They were supposed to play that double dip yesterday, now they're playing the double dip today, but regardless, for this Baltimore Orioles team, they're a bottom 3 team in the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA. So many guys like Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, Cionel Perez, you just go down the list of guys that right now supplying a sub-450 ERA, and it's not great for them, to say the least. And for the Boston Red Sox, we've had Brendan Bernardino, along with Aroldis Chapman, be able to give you a sub-250 ERA. Justin Wilson has been pretty good as a long guy. They did have to burn up Garrett Wilthock yesterday, but all in all, they're pretty set for this doubleheader, having quite a few guys who are able to give you some good innings like Greg Weiser. And when it comes to that lineup even further, we've got Alex Bregman, Weiler Abreu, who both been able to give you 11 plus home runs. For Bregman, he's been able to give you about a 385 on base. You've got Carlos Narvaez, who's been able to about a 280 to a 290 or so. And Jarren Duran, after a rough start to the season, he's now hitting a 270 as well. And for the Orioles, in games played away from home, they're averaging only about 3.9 runs per game. That's a bottom 7 mark in the big leagues. Ryan O'Hearn has actually been solid with 7 home runs, a 400 on base. We've got Jackson Holliday starting to move the line along with Gunnar Henderson in between about a 260 to 270. But as Sakir said, Ori Mateo, Adley Rushman, Cedric Malone sitting at 230 or lower, that's been a bit of an issue for this team. So I do think that with the Boston Red Sox, as long as in game number 1, you're able to get a minus 128 or better, I'm going to be willing to lay that money line. And then 9 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, 9.5 or higher, the under. Now, game number 2 is very suspect. I lined up Lucas Giolito against Charlie Morton, and I would be willing to set the Red Sox on the money line at about a minus 165 there. Now, if it's not Charlie Morton, this probably comes down to more like a minus 140 or so, but that would be a circumstance where I'd probably be looking at 9.5 or less to the over, a 10 or higher to the under if you get Charlie Morton especially. He's just a big giant fade at this point. I do think that at some point in this double dip, he's going to be pitching, whether that be in long relief or in a starter's role. And for Lucas Giolito, he himself, north of a 70 ERA. So won't go too far on that game number 2. That is CBD. We'll go a little bit more game number 1, but do know that if you do see Lucas Giolito or Charlie Morton pitching, that is going to be a sky-high total. As we go to 921, 922 on the betting board, the Toronto Blue Jays are on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays. As Shane Baz goes for the Rays, and we've got Jose Barrios on the bump for Toronto. And the total on this game is setting between 9 to 9.5 on the 9. Over is minus 125. The under is plus 105 on the 9.5. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. Rays are between minus 115 to minus 120 favorites. Even money to plus 106 is that number on Toronto. And I'm going to be willing to lay with the Tampa Bay Rays. I did set them on the money line at a minus 136. Fully recognize that things have been rough for Shane Baz recently. 3+ runs given up in each of his last 4 starts. He's posting up an ERA that is hovering right around about a 5, but he is going to be backed up by one of the better bullpens in all baseball. 3.41 ERA for that Tampa Bay Rays bullpen. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, they've been okay. They've been able to give you about a 3.71 ERA. That's right around about league average, but with Jose Barrios, he's always had his dramatic home and road splits, posting up an ERA that is more than 0.9 points higher when he's away from home rather than when he is at home. Overall for the season, he's giving you Barrios is a 4.19 ERA, but that fielding dependent, that's more around about a 4.72 as he's been allowing a home run and a half and 4 walks per 9 innings. 5+ runs given up in that start against the Tampa Bay Rays last time around, gave up 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings, so that's a little bit of a problem. And then for Shane Baz, he has been certainly having his issues in terms of giving up the deep ball, as well as he's giving up a home run and a half per 9 innings, actually a little bit more than that to go along 3 walks per 9, but I do think that he's going to be able to find it here sooner rather than later. And for the likes of Eric Orze, along with Pete Fairbanks, Garrett Clevenger, give you a sub-3 ERA, I do like to see that. And Jeff Hoffman on the flip side for the Toronto Blue Jays has been rough recently. He's bouncing up north of 5 ERA for the season. Yimi Garcia is starting to be able to get his act together, so that helps out this bunch. And you've been able to have someone like a Mason Fluharty be able to give you some good innings as well. But for the Blue Jays, this continues to be one of the most powerless teams in all baseball. Bottom 4 team with regards to home runs on a per at-bat basis, Dalton Varsho has come off the injured list, and he's been able to supply the team with 6 home runs, so he's sitting just a 200. We've got plenty of guys that are moving the line. George Springer, 375 on base. Flagler Jr. at 380 on base. Nate Lukes, he's been able to give you about 370 on base, but all these guys, 7 home runs or fewer. Bo Bichette sitting at 280, and the power's starting to return for him a little bit, but still has been a little bit shaky. And for the Rays, this team has been one of the worst power hitting teams in all baseball as well. You've got Junior Caminero, who's been hitting just a 240, but he has been able to give you 8 home runs. Cameron Misser, after a good start to the season, he started to regress as he, Brandon Lau, Christopher Morel, I'll give you a sub 290 on base. You've got Misser hitting for about a 233, but Danny Jansen hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200. You've got Curtis Mead at the bottom lineup, not giving you too much in general. So I do think that both of these offenses just not going to be able to do their part with regards to the total line. Even though you got 2 struggling starters, I do think that Boz just has a better stuff here and finds a way to get it done for the Rays. I set them at a minus 136, so like that Rays money line, and I do like this total under. I set my total at an 8.4. 923, 924 on the betting board. It is the Cleveland Guardians, and they're facing off against the Detroit Tigers. Luis Ortiz is on the bump for Cleveland, and right now it's all to be determined who's going to be on the bump for Detroit. This is a game that's off the board, and I was lining up as if we were going to get Casey Mize, and if you do indeed get Casey Mize, I'd be willing to set the money line price of the Tigers at a minus 149, so we need at least plus 150 to take a shot on the Guardians, and I did set my total at an 8.2, an 8 or less. I'd be on the over an 8.5 or higher to the under right now. You've got a guy in Casey Mize who's been a little bit banged up, so we shall see what that official starter is going to be for the Detroit Tigers, but that said, if you do get Casey Mize, he's been able to do a relatively solid job of keeping things out in front of him and not giving up a lot of walks. For Mize, this would be his first start in a few weeks, as he was able to make 7 good starts to begin the season, went on the injured list on the 8th of May, and he's been able to give you about 7.5 strikeouts per 9, and he's starting to get that swing and miss stuff back after he had some very, very rough surgery a few years ago, so that's something that you do want to be mindful of. And with regards to the flip side, you've got a bunch that has Luis Ortiz just really struggling this far this season. His strikeout numbers have been pretty solid, but he's been giving up a lot of walks, and he's been just giving up a lot of hard contact. For Luis Ortiz, 1.3 home runs and 4.3 walks per 9 innings, 4.66 ERA, closer to a 4.07 fielding dependent with those strikeouts, and he's been a little bit better recently. 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in 3 out of his last 4 starts, but has been quite shaky on the road, and this Guardians bullpen just not what it was a few seasons ago, as Emmanuel Clase starting to look a little bit better for this unit, but he's still posting up north of 4 ERA, has not been the same guy that he was a season ago, and then Tim Aaron certainly has not been the same guy that he was a year ago as well. You've got Hunter Gaddis along with Kate Smith, who'll be able to give you a sub 3 ERA, so I have to like what you're seeing there. And Kobe Allard has actually turned into a relatively good long guy, but he's someone that I have my question marks with. Joey Cantillo as well for the Guardians, just a very top heavy lineup as well. You've got Carlos Santana, who's starting to give you a few more RBI, but not like he's hitting for any sort of an amazing average or anything like that, hitting about a 235 with 6 home runs. Jose Ramirez, Kyle Manzardo, these are your 2 power bats, combined 19 home runs. For Manzardo, though, hitting just a 215. You've had Jose Ramirez do a little bit of everything, 13 plus stolen bases, hitting above 300, and then Steven Kwan is hitting above 300, but that doesn't do too much good when you've got so many guys at the bottom of the lineup, like John Kenzie Noel, Brian Rocchio, Bo Naylor, Austin Hedges, guys like this, hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Lane Thomas has been banged up throughout the season, along Nolan Jones, and these guys have just not given you anything as well. And for the Detroit Tigers, this has turned into a top 4 team in terms of run creation in the American League. You've got a guy in Spencer Torkelson who's been able to give you 13 home runs with a 350 on base. Then Gary Carpenter's up to 10 bombs, hitting at 280. Riley Green's hitting at 280 with 12 home runs. Javi Baez has not been useless this season. He and Gleyber Torres both hitting above a 270. Dylan Dingler, when he's been out there, he's been able to 300 as well. So with the Detroit Tigers being able to pair that up with a bullpen that since the All-Star break in 2024 has been number 1 in all of baseball, been able to have the likes of Brennan Hennefy throw in there as well. Guys like Tommy Canely, Chase Lee, Will Vest, all be able to give you a sub 250 ERA. Brand Herter has been utilized a little bit as a starter, but he can come out of the bullpen as well. I do think that the Detroit Tigers should be a sizable favorite. If you do indeed get Casey Mize, we'll be willing to go up to a minus 148 on the Tigers, plus 150 or higher. Looking at the Guardians, and then 8 or less like the over 8.5 or higher. The under 925, 926 on the betting board. It is the Colorado Rockies, a playoffs to the New York Yankees, as Mad Max Fried goes for the Yanks, and Kyle Freeland is on the bump for Colorado, and Colorado is a sizable underdog, anywhere between plus 270 to plus 285. Meanwhile, between minus 327 to minus 340 is that number on New York. 10.5 is the total. The over and the under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. If you're looking to lay 3.5 runs with the New York Yankees at Circa, you're able to find that at a minus 102. You have to go minus 155 to lay 2.5 runs, and to lay 1.5 runs, that's right around about minus 225. I'm going to be willing to lay the minus 3.5 runs here with the New York Yankees. I think that they bounce back here. I've got my projected total at a 7 to 3.7, which I don't think I've ever done that before. Congratulations to the Rockies on winning their 9th game of the season yesterday. They did a nice job holding down the New York Yankees, and I just don't think that lightning is going to be striking twice. For Kyle Freeland, he actually has a relatively solid fielding independent because he doesn't walk a lot of guys. Granted, he only gets about 6.5 to 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but has done a solid job keeping the ball in the yard. 5.68 ERA, a sub 3.50 with regards to that fielding independent. But going up against a New York Yankees team that you saw Aaron Judge go deep once again yesterday, 17 home runs this season, and he's been able to give you north of a 480 on base. Ben Rice has been able to give you double-figure amount of homers. Cody Bellinger starting to round into form. Trent Grisham, he's been able to give you a home run every about 11 or so at bats. I've been very impressed by them, and with the Colorado Rockies, even at home, they're averaging only about 4.2 runs per contest. They just have not been able to give you a ton with that regard. You've got a quartet of guys, Michael DeGlia, Ryan McMahon, Hunter Goodman, and Jordan Beck. I'll give you between 6 and 8 home runs this season, but in the case of DeGlia and McMahon, both of these guys hitting at 215 or lower. Even when they're at home, their averages don't necessarily go up tremendously. Edel Amador, he's been hitting about $150. Jacob Stallings has been useless at the plate as well. And then for the Colorado Rockies, this is a bullpen that is quite shaky, to say the least. You've actually had Zachary Agnos give you a sub 2 ERA, so shout out to him. Jake Bird has been able to give you a few good innings as well, but with Victor Vodnik on the injured list, that's caused them to have to throw a little bit more on El Shavili, Seth Halverson, Ryan Rolson. Guys like this are supplying north of a 5 ERA. For the New York Yankees, fully recognize that Taven Williams has been a big giant mess for the team, but Luke Weaver has been able to give you a sub 1 ERA. He has been tremendous. You've got Fernando Cruz along with Yuri De Los Santos, who will be able to give you a sub 3 ERA as well. I do think that for Max Fried, he's going to continue his dominance. Sub 2 ERA, gets about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not like he's some sort of a swing and miss artist or anything like that, but he does a nice job being consistent night in and night out, not giving up a lot of walks, as he's only been giving up about 2.2 walks per 9 innings this season, and I think that he goes out there, flat out dominates this lineup. I did set my total at 7.7. I think that the Yankees take out their frustrations of yesterday on Freeland, so like the over, and I'm willing to lay up to 3.5 here with the New York Yankees. 927, 928 on the card. The Athletics are playing us to the Philadelphia Phillies, as good news for Chris Sanchez is on the bum for the Phils, and you've got Mr. Jeffrey Springs on the bum for the A's. If you're looking at the run line of the Phillies, that is minus 110, and their money line is more around minus 168 to a minus 175. Meanwhile, between plus 143 to a plus 150 is that number on the Athletics with a 9.5 total. Over is between minus 110 to even money. Under is between minus 110 to a minus 120, and for the Athletics, I would have needed at least a plus 173 to be able to take a shot here. For the Phillies, I'm willing to go up to that minus 110 on the run line. Really no further. Christopher Sanchez does see quite a bit of fall off with his numbers away from home rather than at home since the beginning of the 2024 campaign. His ERA has been north of 4 away from home, sub 3 when he has been at home, so something to be mindful of, but Sanchez overall has been able to do a nice job of being able to keep things out in front of him and not allow the deep ball since the beginning of the 2024 campaign. 0.65 home runs allowed per 9 innings. His strikeout stuff has been very much up this year. 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He comes in having given up 3 earned runs or fewer in each of his last 5 starts. Now he is going to be pitching out there in Sacramento where the ball has just been absolutely flying in. This is an A's lineup that, I mean, it's not necessarily amazing, but certainly has some good power with Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom being able to give you both 10 plus home runs apiece. You've got Jacob Wilson doing incredible work, being able to hit for north of a 330 for this unit. Shea Langoliers, well, Shea is banged for 9 home runs, giving you about a 315 on base. Lawrence Butler has had a little bit of a tough time moving the line recently, but he's able to hit some bombs. He's able to give you some stolen bases. Nick Kurtz, since coming up to the big league level, it's been a little bit up and down for him, but seems like he's starting to find his form a bit more. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, don't have a ton of power outside of Kyle Schwarber. Schwarber has been just tremendous entering into yesterday with 17 home runs, nearly a 400 on base, and then you've been able to get some good production out of Mr. Bryce Harper as well with 8 home runs, now back up to a 380 on base. He seems to be rounding into form. Brandon Marsh has had a little bit of a rough season, and for a lot of these guys, the power numbers aren't there, but the batting average still is. Like Trey Turner is hitting at 300, Nick Castellanos still hitting for about a 275 or so. Yohan Rojas is doing a solid job of being able to move the line, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, not having Jose Alvarado out there certainly hurts this bullpen, but Matt Strom has been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA, been able to get relatively good production in terms of some of the longer guys as well. So you've been able to have Tanner Banks be able to give you a sub 4 ERA. You've been able to get a little bit more of something as well out of Joe Ross as well, though a 4.24 ERA isn't necessarily something to write home about, but I mean, still better than the A's, who are currently finding themselves in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Someone like Noah Murdoch posting up north of 5 ERA has not been great. You've got a few guys that have actually been very trustworthy in this process as well. Justin Cerner, he's been able to give give you a sub-2 ERA. Grant Holman, he's been able to give you about a 3.60 or so, but outside of those two guys, it's been relatively rough with TJ McFarland posting up north of 5 ERA. Tyler Ferguson has been all over the place, and when it comes to Jeffrey Springs, he's had an up and down season thus far as he's giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. The whiff rate is just way down, only getting about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but has been able to do an okay job of stranding guys on base. Does need to cut down on those walks, north of 3.2 walks per 9 innings. I do think that the Phillies do a nice job of being able to get to him here, and again, Christopher Sanchez, not quite the same pitcher when he's away from him. So semi total at a 10.2. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over, and with the Phillies up to a minus 110, I'm willing to lay that run line, and we're going to have things up with 929, 930 on the betting board. The LA Angels play us the Miami Marlins. Cal Quantrill is on the bum for the Fish, and Jose Soriano is on the bum for the Angels. Angels do find themselves as a sizable favorite here, between minus 165 to a minus 170, plus 143 to a plus 153. That number, Miami 8.5 is the total. Overs between minus 110 to a minus 115. Unders between minus 105 to a minus 110 with the Angels. I set them at a minus 155 on the money line. If you're taking a look at laying a run half with them, you're going to be finding them at a plus 125 or so, and I would need closer to about a plus 130. So a little bit of wait and see mode here. If we could get this money line down a little bit further, I'd be willing to take a shot on the Angels, and if we can continue to see this go northward to a plus 155, I'll be in on Miami. For Cal Quantrill, it's been a rough start to the season for him. He's been supplying north of a 6 ERA, and he has been not necessarily even able to give you the world's greatest command, and that was supposed to be one of his big fortes with being a soft tosser, 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 3.3 walks per 9, 637 ERA, 474 fielding independence, so should be in for a little bit of positivity. Meanwhile, for Jose Soriano, what he's really excelled at is being able to keep the ball in the yard. 357 ERA, 361 fielding independent, only about 7 strikeouts and 4 walks per 9 innings, but only gives up about a half home run per 9, but has been getting tattooed a little bit more with 3+ runs allowed in 3 out of his last 5 starts. And for the Angels, but has really been spearheading this run as they're now up to 8 straight wins, has been the deep ball. You've got Taylor Ward, who's supplying 13+ home runs this season. Not a lot of guys are able to move the line, and Ward actually got his 15th home run yesterday, but you've been able to get some good production out of Jorge Soler in terms of being able to go yard. Logan O'Hoppe has been able to give you 13+ home runs this season. Even a guy like a Kyron Paris, who got off to a nice start to the season, not a lot of average, but he's been able to give you some power. Now you do have a little bit more in terms of Nolan Schunall, give you a 375 on base, and Zach Neto, 8+ home runs, hitting a 290. These guys have been instrumental at helping out this team. And for the Miami Marlins, you pretty much have 2 guys supplying power. Matt Mervis has been able to give you 7 home runs, but he's hitting below a 200. Kyle Sowers, 385 on base, 10+ home runs, but then you got the likes of Otto Lopez, Derek Hill, these 2 guys hitting a 220 or lower. Jesus Sanchez is starting to pick it up a little bit more as he's been able to give you about a 330 on base, but Javier Sonja, after a nice start to the season, he's giving you less than a 285 on base, and this little bullpen that's all sorts of suspect for the Miami Marlins as well. Lake Bakar has been giving you north of a 4.5 ERA. Anthony Bender has been solid, sub-3 ERA. Calvin Fauché, after a relatively shaky start to the season, starting to pick it up a little bit, but still north of 5 ERA. Ronnie Enriquez has been a relatively good long guy, and this is an LA Angels bullpen that they themselves are dead last in the big leagues in terms of ERA. That's a big reason why I couldn't set them as a more sizable favorite, because you've got Ryan Zephyrian, who's been able to give you a 4.5 ERA. He's pretty much the only guy in this bullpen that's giving you a sub-4.5 ERA. Reed Detmers, Brock and Rolberg both give you north of a 6 ERA. Kenley Jansen has been shaky as a closer. Garrett McDaniels lands on the injury list, but he was posting up at 6 ERA to begin with as well. So even though I do think that Jose Soriano is going to be relatively rock solid here, I do think that the Marlins get some runs out of that bullpen, and if you're able to get a plus 155 or higher, look at that fish money line, and I'm going to be in on the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Danny Vietti. He does great work over at CBS Sports. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter. So, per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm giving that to you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. And I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.